"Mommy, will I ever get a birthday cake like other kids?" The mother froze. Her lips trembled. Her heart sank. Because the truth she carried wasn't the one her daughter deserved to hear. She worked in a bakery surrounded by cakes, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, yet couldn't afford even a single slice for her little girl's birthday. But what she didn't know was that someone was watching. A man of wealth and power, known for his cold heart, was about to do something no one expected. Before we dive in, tell us, where in the world are you watching this from? We love seeing how far kindness can travel. The morning sky was pale and quiet, the kind of blue that looks like it forgot how to shine. A bus hissed down the street, leaving behind a breath of smoke and a line of people chasing time. On a small corner where the sidewalk cracked like dry earth, Monica stood with her daughter's hand wrapped in hers. She squeezed gently, the way a lighthouse presses light into the dark, steady, brave, pretending not to be tired. Ava looked up, her backpack bumping against her tiny shoulders. She was 6, with bright eyes that made everyone soften, and hair in neat little puffs that Monica had done at dawn by the glow of the stove light. Today wasn't just any morning. It was 2 days before Ava's birthday. The world should have felt like confetti and song. Instead, it felt like a long hallway with too many locked doors. They walked past Riverside Bakery, the big one with the gold sign and the warm smell of vanilla drifting onto the street like a promise. Inside the window, cakes sat on silver stands, dressed in swirls of buttercream and tiny sugar stars. There was one with rainbow sprinkles, one with a small sugar crown, one covered in chocolate curls that looked like a secret. Ava slowed, then stopped. She pressed her palm to the glass as if the warmth inside could move through it. "Mommy," she whispered, and the word held a wish. "Do you think my cake will have candles like that?" Monica swallowed. She knew the exact number in her wallet. She knew the rent due next week and the bus pass that would expire in 3 days and the last bag of rice sitting in the cabinet. She knew she worked in a bakery, the smaller one downtown that sold leftovers at closing. And she knew that even with her discount, even with hope, the math didn't change. Her smile came gentle and careful. "Sweetheart," she said, smoothing a curl at Ava's temple, "maybe we do something small at home. Maybe a pancake cake. You love pancakes, right?" Ava didn't turn from the glass. "I like candles," she said. "I want to blow them out and make a wish. I want the cake to have my name." Something inside Monica tightened. She glanced at the cakes again, how they sat like little parties waiting for someone to come claim them. She thought of the hours she'd worked today, the rush of customers, the sting of sugar dust in the back of her throat, her manager's voice sharp as a bell. She thought of how people ordered slices without thinking, how they tossed away half-eaten frosting like it was nothing at all. She crouched down and gathered Ava into her arms. "I hear you," she whispered. "I hear you, baby." She kissed her forehead and stood. "Come on, we'll be late for school." They walked on. The city woke louder. Horns, shoes slapping pavement, someone laughing too hard at a joke that wasn't funny. On the bus, Monica held the pole and counted the stops with her breath. Ava leaned against her side, tracing letters on the fogged window. AVA. At the school gate, Ava tugged on Monica's sleeve. "If the cake is small," she asked softly, "can it still have my name?" "It can still have your name," Monica promised. "And your name is beautiful." A teacher waved. Ava skipped forward a few steps, then darted back and hugged Monica's waist quick, fierce, brave. "Bye, Mommy. Bye, my heart." When the gate closed, Monica kept standing there for a moment as if wishing could turn into money if she just stood still long enough. Then she checked the time on her phone and hurried toward her shift. She walked past the river with its slow brown water, past the corner store with the bright soda signs and the old man who always nodded and called her Miss Sunshine even when she looked like rain. Past the mural of a mother holding a child, both faces made of color and light. She touched the mural's edge as she passed, like a ritual, like a promise to keep going. Monica worked at Sweet Finch, a bakery with soft music, round tables, and a glass case that turned people into dreamers. She tied her apron, pulled on her cap, and moved to the register. She greeted the first customer with a smile. It was small, but it was honest. The morning rhythm took her. Ring up croissants, pour coffee, say thank you, wipe the counter, say good morning, smile at a tired nurse, be patient with the couple who couldn't decide between lemon and strawberry. Say, take your time. Say, no problem. Say, I can check if we have more vanilla. She was good at this, at making people feel seen, giving them warmth without asking for anything back. But her body ached. Her feet hummed with a dull pain that never left. The clock didn't move fast or slow. It simply moved. At 10, a delivery driver pushed in a trolley of supplies. At 11, two teenagers took pictures of cupcakes and whispered about which one would look best online. At noon, a man in a blue suit ordered coffee and a slice of carrot cake, took 2 bites, and left the rest. Monica cleared the plate, scraped the frosting, felt something pinch in her chest. During her 10-minute break, she stepped into the alley and called her sister Tasha, who lived 2 cities away and worked nights at a clinic. "Hey," Monica said, "you okay?" Tasha's voice was warm but alert, the way it always was when she worried. "Yeah," Monica lied. Then the truth pushed through. "No, talk to me. It's Ava's birthday," Monica said. "She wants a cake with candles." "I can't even— stop, breathe," a pause. "You know I'd help if I could. You know that." "I know." Monica stared at the thin slice of sky between brick walls. I want her to feel special just once. Not maybe next year special. Real special, Tash." Tasha was quiet for a long beat. "You remember when we were kids and Mom made that cornbread cake?" she said finally, laughing softly. "Stuck birthday candles in it, called it gourmet." Monica chuckled despite herself. "Yeah," she said, "butter is butter." "And we believed her," Tasha said, "because it tasted like love." Another pause. "You're doing your best. That matters. Ava knows. I hope," Monica said. "Love you. Love you back." She hung up. She wiped her eyes, straightened her cap, and walked inside. In the afternoon, the store buzzed. Someone said the big parent company had bought Sweet Finch last month. Someone else said there was a new CEO. Someone whispered he might visit, maybe this week, maybe today. The rumor flowed through the bakery like a draft under a door. Monica didn't care who wore what title. She just needed this job. She needed the hours, the tips, the check that always arrived thinner than she'd planned. "Floors," her manager Kelly called from the back. "Make them gleam. If corporate comes, I want to see my face in them." "Yes, ma'am," Monica said. She grabbed the mop. The handle felt heavy with worry. She moved methodically, pushing water and soap into shining paths as if she could mop her way to good news. By the time she was done, the floor looked like it had learned how to be a mirror. It was almost closing when a familiar pair of sneakers skipped across the threshold. "Mommy." Ava's voice rang like a bell. Behind her was Mrs. Boone from down the hall, a neighbor who often watched Ava when Monica's shifts ran late. "School let out early," Mrs. Boone explained. "Maintenance thing. I tried to keep her home, but she wanted to see you, and I know you got the evening rush. I can take her back right after." Monica's heart softened. "It's okay," she said, eyes on her manager, already bracing. "Ava, you can sit at the corner table and color, okay? Stay there like a mouse." Ava nodded solemnly and climbed into a chair. She pulled out her crayons and a sheet of paper, tongue peeking from the corner of her mouth. Monica went back to the register, hand steady, voice warm, the world balanced on one little girl doing her best to stay invisible. A few minutes later, a hush moved through the shop like a breeze. A tall man in a dark jacket walked in with a woman carrying a tablet. People straightened. Kelly's voice switched to sugar. "Welcome. Let us know if you have any questions." The man nodded once, his face thoughtful, eyes scanning the space. Floor, counter, staff, customers. He didn't have the look of someone who wanted to be impressed. He looked like a person who measured things quietly. Monica's body went alert. She didn't make eye contact. She kept her attention on the customer in front of her, bagging pastries, counting change, confirming the order. 1 lemon bar, 1 cinnamon roll. Her voice was smooth. Her hands were sure. In the corner, Ava added color to her drawing, bright pink frosting, blue letters. She leaned over the page, then hopped off her chair and walked carefully toward the counter, holding up the picture with both hands. "Mommy," she said, soft but clear. Look, Monica's heart tripped. "Ava," she whispered, panicked but gentle. "Remember the mouse rule." "I did it," Ava whispered back, proud. On the paper was a cake, 2 layers dripping with pretend icing, 6 tall candles, the name Ava in round, happy letters. Something shifted in the room. The tall man had turned to watch. His expression changed in the smallest way, like a door opening to light. He stepped closer, but not too close, and crouched slightly to meet Ava's eye level. "That's a beautiful cake," he said, voice warm and even. "Is it for a special day?" "My birthday," Ava said, tucking her chin. "Mommy says we'll make pancake cake, but I want one like this." She lifted the paper, and the candles looked like tiny hopes standing straight. Monica felt the heat rise to her cheeks. "I'm sorry," she said quickly to the man, to the room, to all the eyes she felt but didn't meet. She's just excited." The man glanced at Monica, then back to Ava. "I think pancake cake sounds pretty amazing," he said. "But this one is perfect." Ava smiled, shy and bright. "I put my name so the cake knows who it belongs to." The man's mouth twitched into a small grin. He stood, gave a short nod, and turned away, his face settling again into that quiet thinking look. The woman with the tablet followed him toward the display case. Kelly swooped to Monica's side, whispering, "That is him." Her voice trembled with a strange mix of fear and charm. "That's Marcus Reed." Monica kept breathing, in, out, in, out. She placed a muffin in a bag, slid a coffee across. The counter said thank you, said, "Have a nice day," and pretended her heart wasn't beating at her throat. She wanted to scoop up Ava and tuck her under her arm like a treasured book, but she stayed where she was. A job is a roof. A job is food. A job is a way forward. The tall man, Marcus, walked the length of the case, paused at the carrot cake, at the chocolate curls, at the rainbow sprinkles. He spoke quietly to the woman who typed. Then he stepped back, glanced once more toward the corner where Ava had returned to color, and headed for the door. He paused as he passed the register. His eyes met Monica's for a fraction of a second. Not cold, not pitying, just seeing. He dipped his chin in a polite nod, the kind a person gives when they understand something they can't fix with a sentence, and then he left. The bell on the door chimed. The room exhaled. Kelly leaned on the counter, whisper shouting, "That went well." "I think. I hope." She swiped an invisible speck from the gleaming floor. "Good work today, Monica." Monica nodded, but the knot in her chest didn't loosen. She glanced at Ava, who was now drawing candles taller than the cake, as if to make the wish bigger. Monica forced a smile. "Almost done, baby," she called. "We'll head home soon." By closing, her feet burned. She counted the till, wiped the glass, stacked chairs. She picked up Ava's drawing, folded it carefully, and slid it into her bag like something sacred. Outside, the evening had cooled. The streetlights flickered on. Mrs. Boone waved goodbye and promised to stop by tomorrow with leftover soup. Monica and Ava walked home under a sky that had learned how to be dark. Ava swung their hands between them, counting 1, 2, 3, swing, and for a few steps they were just two people who knew how to fly. But when they reached their building, the air changed again. The hallway smelled like boiled cabbage and laundry soap. Their apartment door stuck the way it always did, and Monica had to lean her shoulder into it. Inside, the room felt small and quiet. The lamp by the couch buzzed before it agreed to shine. Ava climbed onto the couch and kept drawing. Monica stood in the kitchen, staring at the empty counter, at the used pan on the stove, at the single egg left in the carton. She pictured a birthday table with plates that matched, a cake that glowed with candles, friends gathered around singing too loud. She pictured her own mother years ago making cornbread cake and calling it gourmet. Butter is butter. Monica boiled water for tea she wouldn't drink. She packed a small lunch for Ava, the last apple, a half sandwich, a note that said, "I love you more than the moon." She sat on the edge of the bed and pressed her palms to her eyes until the sting eased. In the living room, Ava finished her picture and carried it over. "Look, Mommy," she said, proud and hopeful. "Now we have a cake. We can pretend." Monica took the paper. The candles were bright. The name was careful. The frosting looked happy. She pulled Ava close, breathing in the smell of crayons and the soft sweetness every child carries without trying. One day, she whispered into her daughter's hair. One day, baby, we won't have to pretend. Ava nodded, serious in the way only children can be. It's okay, she said. Wishes work whether the cake is real or not. Monica kissed her forehead. Then let's practice wishing, she said. They stood the picture up on the table. Monica turned off the lamp to make the room darker, like a tiny night sky. They both closed their eyes. Ready? Monica asked. Ready, Ava said. They blew together. The room didn't change, but their hearts did, just a little. And outside, somewhere in the city that didn't know their names yet, a door was already starting to open. The next morning broke heavy with clouds that had forgotten how to shine. Monica woke before dawn, as she always did, to the hiss of the radiator and the quiet breathing of her daughter beside her. The alarm clock glowed 5:15 a.m. She let it buzz a second longer than usual before silencing it. Just one more second of stillness, she thought. Just one more second before the world began asking again. She dressed in silence. Fresh uniform, same old shoes whose soles had thinned like patience. She pulled her hair into a bun, careful not to wake Ava, then stopped to watch her for a moment. The little girl was dreaming, a small smile tugging at her lips. Maybe she was dreaming about the cake she drew, the one with her name on it. Monica whispered a small prayer. God, please, help me give her one day she'll remember for joy, not struggle. By 6, she was on the bus, rain dotting the window beside her. The streets shimmered with reflections. Streetlights, taillights, the faint glow of bakeries opening early. Her phone buzzed. A message from Kelly, her manager. Heads up. The new CEO is visiting today. Be sharp. We need to look perfect. Monica stared at the message. Her stomach dropped. She'd heard the rumors. The parent company had a new leader, Marcus Reed, a man known for his cold efficiency and no-nonsense attitude. He trims the fat, one of the cashiers had whispered last week. If you mess up, you're gone, she sighed, pressing her forehead to the bus window. Perfect, she murmured to herself. Just what I needed. By 8, Sweet Finch Bakery was already alive with the hum of ovens and chatter. The smell of cinnamon and sugar filled the air, rich enough to make the world outside seem less cruel. Monica tied her apron tighter and started prepping the counter. Kelly stood near the back, clipboard in hand, firing orders like a drill sergeant. We need every surface spotless. Smiles, everyone! Corporate doesn't like sad faces. Got it, Monica replied, her voice steady though her hands trembled slightly. Monica, Kelly added, I need you on register today. You're the most polite. Just don't over-talk. He likes professionalism. Understood. It wasn't until later that morning that the day's first complication arrived. Ava's school had closed early again. A pipe issue, the teacher said when Monica picked up the phone. Just for today. Can someone else watch her? Mrs. Boone, the neighbor, was at a doctor's appointment. Monica's heart pounded. If I call out, I'll lose the shift. If I bring her, I could get fired. She looked at the clock. She had 10 minutes to decide. Okay, she whispered. Okay, baby, you'll come with mommy. We'll be quiet. You'll color like a little mouse, remember? Ava nodded solemnly when Monica explained. I can be a mouse, mommy, quiet like this. She pressed her lips together to demonstrate and made a funny squeaking face. Monica smiled, but her chest hurt. That's my girl. At 2:15 p.m., the atmosphere in the bakery shifted. The air itself felt straighter, tighter. Kelly's voice dropped to a hiss. He's here. Everyone, positions. The glass door opened with a chime that seemed louder than usual. A man stepped in, tall and composed, his dark coat still glistening with rain. His presence filled the space in a way that words couldn't. He wasn't flashy. No shiny watch, no swagger. Just quiet authority. Behind him, a woman in a beige suit carried a tablet and whispered notes. Marcus Reed scanned the bakery slowly, his gaze moving over the displays, the counters, the staff. It wasn't unkind, it was assessing, measuring. Like a man who saw details other people missed. Kelly was at his side in an instant, voice syrup sweet. Mr. Reed, welcome to Sweet Finch, we've been expecting you. He nodded once. Good afternoon. His voice was deep, calm, practiced. Please, don't make a fuss. I'm here to observe, not interrupt. Of course, Kelly gushed. Everything's ready. Monica kept her eyes on the register, pretending her hands didn't shake as she bagged pastries. The air around her felt heavy. She could sense him moving through the space the way one senses a storm before it breaks. From the corner of the bakery, Ava sat on a stool, legs swinging, head bent over her notebook. She'd promised to be silent, but her crayons moved like music, pink, yellow, sky blue. Marcus Reed noticed her. His brows knit briefly in curiosity. A child in a corporate workplace? But instead of frowning, his expression softened. Something about her concentration pulled at a memory he couldn't place. Monica rang up an order. "That'll be $6.75, she said, her voice even. Her customer smiled and left. She turned to restock the cookie display, her back to the room for a brief second. Behind her, Ava slid off her stool, clutching her paper. She had drawn again, another cake, bigger this time, with 6 candles and the word Ava in purple. She walked carefully to the counter, her braids bouncing. "Mommy," she whispered, holding the picture up proudly. "I made the frosting pink this time." Monica froze. "Ava," she whispered sharply, trying to sound kind but firm. "Not now, baby, too late." The sound of small footsteps had drawn attention. Marcus Reed had turned toward them. His expression was unreadable. He walked forward slowly, stopping a few feet from the counter. His assistant hovered nearby, uneasy. "That's quite an artwork," Marcus said, crouching slightly to meet Ava's eyes. "Is that your birthday cake?" Ava nodded shyly. "It's what I want. Mommy says we can make pancakes instead, but I like the ones with frosting." Monica's stomach dropped. "Mr. Reed, I'm so sorry," she stammered. "She wasn't supposed to be here today. Her school closed early and He raised a hand slightly, stopping her apology. "It's fine," he said, his tone calm, not reprimanding. "You're her mother. You're doing what you can." For a brief second, his gaze softened as he looked from Ava to Monica. Something flickered in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. A quiet kind of empathy. Then, as quickly as it came, it was gone. He straightened his posture and nodded to Kelly. "Everything looks in order. Carry on." And just like that, he was gone. Out the door, into the rain that had started again, leaving behind a silence that stretched too long. Kelly exhaled hard, fanning herself with the clipboard. "Well, that was nerve-wracking," she muttered. Then her eyes snapped to Monica. "You brought your kid to work?" Monica's mouth went dry. "Her school closed early. I didn't have anyone." "I told you corporate doesn't like distractions," Kelly whispered fiercely. He saw that, Monica, he saw it. "Do you know what kind of impression that makes?" "I'm sorry," Monica said quietly. "It won't happen again." Kelly sighed, half in frustration, half in fear of her own job. "Let's just pray he doesn't mention it in the report." Monica nodded, numb. She turned back to Ava, who was still clutching her drawing. "Come on, sweetheart," she said softly. "Let's get our things." Ava blinked up at her, confused by the tension in her mother's face. "Did I do bad?" Monica knelt down, brushing her thumb across Ava's cheek. "No, baby. You did beautiful. You're perfect. Mommy just needs a little quiet right now." They walked home that evening beneath the dripping city. Ava's small hand swung in hers, still clutching the drawing. The rain made tiny rivers along the curb, reflecting the glow of streetlights. "Mommy," Ava said after a while. "Did the man like my cake?" Monica forced a smile. "I think he did." Inside, she was unraveling. What if this was it? What if tomorrow she walked in and her name tag wasn't waiting? How would she pay rent? What would she tell Ava? By the time they reached their apartment, Monica's feet were soaked, her heart heavy. She dried Ava's shoes near the heater, helped her into pajamas, and tucked her into bed. As she sat by the window, the city outside blinked with lights that didn't care who they shined for. She looked at Ava's drawing pinned on the fridge, a bright pink cake with 6 candles and the word Ava written in love. Tears welled in her eyes, slow and hot. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass. "Please," she whispered to the night, "don't let this be the thing that breaks us." Somewhere far away in a penthouse overlooking that same city, Marcus Reed sat at his desk, still thinking about the little girl with the drawing. He didn't know why her face lingered in his mind, or why the tired pride in her mother's eyes looked so familiar. He just knew he couldn't stop seeing them. And though neither of them realized it yet, the next morning would change both their lives forever. The rain had eased by morning, but the air still smelled like it was trying to remember the storm. In the narrow hallway outside apartment 3B, the walls carried the faint scent of damp paint and coffee. Monica stirred awake to the soft rattle of the window and the quiet rhythm of Ava's breathing beside her. For a brief moment, she forgot the fear from the day before, the heavy silence after the CEO's visit, the guilt that kept her awake long after midnight. Then it all returned like a shadow that never left. Her mind whispered the same worry over and over. What if yesterday was the end? She dressed quietly, careful not to wake her daughter. The clock read 6:02 a.m. She should have been on the bus already, but her legs felt heavier than usual. She poured water into a dented kettle and set it on the stove. While it hissed to life, she glanced at the fridge. Ava's cake drawing was still there, taped proudly in the center, its corners curling from the humidity. 6 candles, pink frosting, the name Ava in purple letters that shimmered like hope refusing to die. Monica smiled faintly. "You really dream big, baby girl," she whispered. A few minutes later, she heard a soft thump at the door. Not a knock, more like something had been set down gently. She froze. The building was quiet, still half asleep. She walked over and looked through the peephole. Nothing, just the dim hallway and flickering light above. She opened the door cautiously. And there it was, a small white box neatly wrapped in brown paper with a ribbon tied in a simple knot, on top a white envelope. Her name was written on it in a smooth, practiced hand, for Monica. Her heart began to race. For a long second she simply stood there, not touching it. Then she picked it up carefully, as if afraid it might vanish. The note, she set the box on the table and opened the envelope first. Inside was a single folded note written on thick stationery that smelled faintly of vanilla. The handwriting was clean and deliberate. Sometimes the smallest wishes carry the heaviest meanings. No child should go without a birthday cake. Thank you for your grace, your work, and your kindness. Monica read it twice before it sank in. Mr. Marcus Reed. Her breath caught. She sank into the chair, the note trembling in her hands. The CEO, the man she thought might fire her, had sent this. She untied the ribbon slowly. Inside the box sat a cake, small but beautiful, carefully frosted in soft pink swirls. On top, in delicate cursive icing, it said, "Happy birthday, Ava." Her eyes filled before she could stop them. For a long time, she just stared. No cameras, no audience, no announcement, just a quiet act of kindness that broke something open inside her. Then she laughed through her tears. "You're really something, God," she whispered. When Ava woke up, she found her mother sitting at the table, cheeks glistening, smiling wider than she had in months. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Monica wiped her face quickly and smiled. "These are happy tears, baby." She lifted the box from the table and placed it in front of her daughter. Ava blinked, confused, then gasped so hard it made Monica laugh. "Is that—" "Yes," Monica said softly. "Your birthday cake." Ava's small hands covered her mouth. "With my name on it?" "With your name on it." The little girl squealed and threw her arms around her mother's neck. "It's so beautiful. Did you make it?" Monica hesitated. Someone very kind helped. They lit a single candle, one that Monica had saved in a drawer from an old pack she'd found months ago, and turned off the lights. The apartment glowed with the soft flicker of hope. "Make a wish," Monica whispered. Ava closed her eyes tight, lips moving silently. Then she blew. The tiny flame danced once, twice, and went out, leaving behind a wisp of smoke that curled like a secret promise. "What did you wish for?" Monica asked. Ava grinned. "I can't tell you or it won't come true." Monica laughed, wiping her cheeks again. "Fair enough." They cut the cake carefully. Each slice was more than just sugar. It was warmth, relief, and something deeper, the taste of being seen. When Monica arrived at Sweet Finch that day, the air felt lighter. She walked through the door holding her head a little higher. Kelly, her manager, was standing by the counter, phone pressed to her ear. When she saw Monica, she waved her over with a strange expression, half nervous, half relieved. "Hey," Kelly said after ending the call. You might want to sit down," Monica frowned. "Why, what's wrong?" Kelly handed her a folded letter. "This came from corporate this morning. I thought it might be bad, but just read it." Monica unfolded the paper. Promotion notice. Effective immediately, Monica Taylor is hereby promoted to assistant supervisor at Sweet Finch Bakery. Her consistent work ethic, compassion for customers, and professionalism have been noted and deeply appreciated by executive leadership. Full benefits to begin next pay cycle. Congratulations, and thank you for being a shining example of integrity under pressure. Marcus Reed, CEO. Her hands trembled so much she almost dropped the paper. This can't be real, she whispered. Kelly smiled awkwardly. I know, I didn't believe it either. He personally called this morning. Said he wanted to recognize people who make this place better, not just run it. For a moment, Monica couldn't speak. Years of exhaustion, fear, and invisible labor, all of it crashed into her at once. Thank you, she said finally, her voice breaking. You earned it, Kelly said softly. He must have seen something yesterday, the way you handled everything. Maybe the universe finally decided to give you a little credit. Monica laughed through her tears. Maybe so. That evening she stopped at the corner market and bought something she hadn't bought in years, a small bouquet of sunflowers. Ava loved them. They look like sunshine that forgot to fade, she always said. When Monica opened the apartment door, Ava came running, frosting still on her chin. Mommy, the cake's still there. I had some after school. Monica laughed and knelt, pulling her daughter close. Guess what, baby? What? Mommy got a promotion. Ava's eyes went wide. Does that mean we're rich now? Monica chuckled. Not quite, but it means we'll be okay. Ava thought about that for a second, then nodded seriously. Okay is good. They ate leftovers and told stories until the sun dipped low. The city lights blinked on one by one, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the tiny apartment didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a home. Before bed, Ava hugged her mother again. Mommy? Yes, sweetheart? Who gave us the cake? Monica smiled, thinking of the note and the initials. Someone who remembered what kindness looks like. Ava's eyes softened. Then I'm gonna do that too. When I get big, I'm gonna give people cakes when they're sad. Monica pressed her forehead against her daughter's. You're already doing that, baby. You gave me one just by being you. Ava giggled. Then I'll give more. That night after Ava fell asleep, Monica sat by the window again. The city stretched beneath her, glowing and endless. On the table beside her was the note from Marcus Reed. She picked it up, smoothing the edges where her tears had wrinkled the paper. Her mind wandered back to the bakery, the way he'd looked at Ava, the pause before he spoke, the quiet understanding in his eyes. She realized now he hadn't seen a distraction. He'd seen a reflection, maybe of something he'd lost long ago. Thank you, she whispered into the night, not knowing if he'd ever hear it, for seeing us. The moon climbed higher. The cake sat on the counter, half gone, glowing softly under the lamplight. It wasn't just dessert. It was proof that compassion still existed, even in places ruled by deadlines and profit margins. And somewhere across the city, in a tall office building with glass walls that touched the clouds, Marcus Reed stood by his window too, watching the same moon. He smiled faintly to himself, remembering the little girl's laughter, the mother's trembling voice, the way that drawing had looked, bright, determined, and full of hope. He reached into his drawer, pulling out an old photograph of himself as a boy, standing next to a woman with kind eyes and flour on her apron. A single candle burned on a homemade cake. His throat tightened. Happy birthday, Ava, he murmured to the night, and for the first time in years, the man known for his discipline and distance felt something simple and pure, peace. That night, two very different homes glowed under the same sky, one small and cluttered, filled with laughter and crumbs of pink icing, the other grand and silent, filled with memory and redemption. Neither knew it yet, but that single act of kindness had stitched a fragile thread between their worlds, one that would remind them both that even in the coldest corners of life, humanity still has a heartbeat. The city was quieter than usual that night. A soft drizzle brushed against the skyscraper windows, turning the lights below into 1,000 trembling stars. In the corner office on the 32nd floor of Reed Enterprises, Marcus Reed sat at his desk. The glow of his computer screen dimmed, his suit jacket hanging neatly over the back of the chair. The room smelled faintly of coffee and rain. It was almost midnight, but he wasn't tired. He hadn't been tired in years. Sleep had long ago become a stranger to him, something he waved at from a distance but never quite touched. On his desk lay a small folded piece of paper, a child's drawing. Bright crayons on thin paper, the edges bent from small hands. A pink cake with 6 candles, blue letters spelling out Ava. It had been left behind on the counter that day at Sweetfinch Bakery. He didn't know why he'd picked it up. Maybe curiosity, maybe instinct, maybe because when he saw it lying there, it reminded him of something he'd buried decades ago. He turned the drawing over slowly, his thumb brushing the faint fingerprint smudges that still clung to the paper. She had her mother's eyes, he thought. That same quiet strength, that same look my mother wore when she was doing everything she could with nothing at all. He leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on the skyline. The glass reflected his own face, older, sharper, but still carrying the ghost of the boy who had once watched his mother through a bakery window, just like that little girl had done. 30 years ago, there was another bakery, smaller, poorer, the kind that smelled like fresh bread and burnt hope. Marcus had been 10, his shoes too tight, his coat missing a button. His mother, Lorraine Reed, had worked double shifts there, mornings kneading dough, evenings cleaning the counters after everyone else had gone home. She used to say the smell of flour made her feel alive, that baking was her way of making the world softer. She'd promised him a birthday cake every year, no matter what. But that one winter money ran out before the month did. She came home with tired hands, empty pockets, and eyes full of apology. "I couldn't get the sugar today, baby," she'd said softly, kneeling in front of him. The owner said next week's delivery might have some extra. He had tried to smile. "That's okay, Mama." But she had seen through him that night. She'd improvised. 2 small cornbread muffins stacked together, a single candle borrowed from a neighbor, and a smile so bright it drowned the darkness in their one-room apartment. When he blew out that candle, he'd made a silent promise. "One day, I'll make enough money so you'll never have to choose between sugar and rent again. But life doesn't always keep its promises." Lorraine had passed away 2 years later, pneumonia, they said, though Marcus knew it was more than that. It was exhaustion. It was sacrifice. It was the slow, invisible breaking of someone who gave everything and kept nothing. Marcus grew up fast. He went through school like a storm, efficient, focused, unstoppable. He graduated with honors, built companies, doubled profits, fixed failing systems. But somewhere in that climb, something inside him had hardened. He'd learned to hide behind numbers and charts. Emotions became liabilities. Sentiment was a weakness that success couldn't afford. He made rules, sharp, cold ones. Never get personally involved with employees. Never let feelings cloud judgment. Never look back. For years, those rules protected him. They kept him powerful. Alone, but powerful. Until that day at the bakery. He hadn't even planned to visit Sweetfinch himself. It was supposed to be routine, a quick inspection before restructuring. He'd expected the usual, tired staff, polite smiles, empty promises. But then he saw her, the woman at the counter, the one with eyes that looked like they carried storms. Monica Taylor. Her uniform was worn at the seams, her hands cracked from constant work. Yet she greeted each customer with quiet grace. And then there was the child. He'd turned just in time to see her lift that drawing into the air, a cake drawn in bright colors, a name scrawled with joy, a wish too big for her small world. The moment was simple, yet it hit him with the force of memory. It was like looking through time. That little girl could have been him. That tired mother could have been Lorraine. When Monica whispered, "I'm sorry, sir," he had almost said something, anything, but his throat had locked up. Instead, he'd walked away, afraid of the crack forming in the walls he'd built for years. But the image followed him home. It followed him through dinner, through phone calls, through the endless noise of success. When he finally sat alone in his apartment that night, surrounded by everything money could buy, he felt something he hadn't felt in decades. Emptiness that wasn't about profit. So he did something he hadn't done before. He called the bakery's manager and asked for her name. He could have just sent money. But that wasn't the point. Money didn't fill the holes left by hunger or loss. It didn't teach a child that they mattered. So he called his old friend, a pastry chef who ran one of their partner stores. "I need a custom cake," he'd said. "Pink frosting. 6 candles. Her name is Ava." The chef had laughed. "You're getting sentimental in your old age, Marcus." "Maybe," he replied quietly. "Maybe it's time I should be." When the cake was finished, he made sure it arrived quietly. No company logo, no fanfare. Just a small note. He wanted it to feel like magic, the kind of miracle his own mother had always tried to create for him. And when he received word later that day that Monica had been promoted, that she'd cried in the back room out of sheer disbelief, he felt something inside him settle. Not pride, not pity. Something deeper. Peace. Now, sitting in his office, Marcus took a sip of cold coffee and smiled faintly. He wasn't used to feeling light, but tonight he did. He realized something profound. Kindness didn't take from strength. It restored it. He opened his laptop, drafted an internal memo. Employee initiative. Every birthday matters. Starting this month, every branch will receive a small fund to celebrate employee birthdays or their children's milestones. No child of an employee should feel unseen. He read it twice, nodded, and hit send. For once, the numbers didn't matter. The return on investment didn't matter. What mattered was that somewhere in the city, a little girl was sleeping with frosting on her cheek, and her mother had hope in her heart again. The morning after, when dawn came, Monica walked to work holding Ava's hand. The air was crisp, golden light spilling across cracked sidewalks. The city hadn't changed, but she had. Her steps were lighter, her shoulders no longer slumped under invisible weight. Ava skipped beside her, humming, "Mommy, when I grow up, can I make cakes for people who don't have one?" Monica smiled, eyes glistening. "You can make anything you want, baby." At the bakery, her co-workers congratulated her on the promotion. Kelly handed her a new name tag, Assistant Supervisor Monica Taylor. It gleamed softly in her hand. She pinned it to her apron with care. For once, she didn't feel like she was pretending to be strong. She was strong, and miles away in a high-rise office, Marcus Reed stood by his window again. The city buzzed beneath him, alive with stories he'd never know. But he knew one of them, and that was enough. He whispered into the morning light as if the wind might carry his words to where they were meant to go. "Happy birthday, little one, and thank you for reminding me who I was." Weeks later, Sweet Finch Bakery began its new employee program. On Fridays, they celebrated birthdays with simple cakes and laughter. Customers noticed. The shop grew busier. People said it felt warmer somehow. One evening, a mother and daughter walked in to buy cupcakes. The mother wore a new coat. The daughter, a wide smile. They sat at a corner table, giggling over frosting. Monica looked up from behind the counter and smiled. She knew exactly what that little girl felt, and somewhere high above the city, another light burned in an office window, steady, quiet, human, because sometimes the smallest act of kindness doesn't just feed a hunger, it heals a memory. It changes a heart. It rewrites the story.
Sometimes the kindest gestures don't come from grand speeches or big money. They come from people who remember what it means to hurt and choose to help anyway. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to share it, because one small act of kindness might just be the miracle someone is praying for today.